Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the Haydn Symphony Crusade, up to number 83. Oh my God, 83. This is the second of the Paris symphonies. By the way, the numbering of the Paris symphonies, that's 82 through 87, does not reflect the order in which they were actually composed. But I mean, who's counting? Anyway, number 83 is in G minor. It's the only one that ostensibly is in a minor key, and it's a tragicomic work. And when I say that, I don't mean to belittle it, because it's really powerful music. In fact, all of these symphonies, what's noteworthy about the Paris symphonies generally is that they take the energy level of the symphony generally to totally to the next level. Totally to a higher voltage. It's incredible how much consistent power Haydn generates in these works, and and contrast too, because just as so the fast movements are the most exciting things ever written up to that point, the slow movements are also the most transcendental and spiritual and hypnotic. It's really quite amazing, how his scale expanded in writing these symphonies, because he knew he was writing for an international, well, it was Parisian, but for him, international audience, and he was going to make an impression, and boy, did he. Now, this one has a nickname. The nickname is the Hen. The hen comes from the second subject, which goes clucking its way, across the scene, cluck, 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 like that. Oh, it's hilariously funny. Nya, 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 with the oboe going, bitty, 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 bitty. It's very, very amusing. But the point is, as always with Haydn, there's always a wonderful, wonderful additional angle, an enrichment, if you want to call it that. And that is the fact that this clucky, funny second subject is placed in a movement which is largely in G minor, which is extremely tumultuous and really tragic, despairing in character. And best of all, that hen thing is built out of the same elements as the savage minor key opening. Believe it or not, it really is. And I'm going to show you exactly how. That's how we're going to start this, because, one of the coolest things about Haydn is how the transformations and contrasts are made all the more powerful for being constructed of similar material. He's showing you what the range is using very, very simple building blocks. And so the opening consists of a rising arpeggio with a really anguished sort of passing tone. Remember passing tones. And repeated note sniglets. So it's da 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 dum ba ba da ba ba da ba ba da. Now that, if you turn it around, what did it do? What did I just do? Da 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 dum. That's a passing note. You know what a passing note is in music theory? A passing note is a non-chordal tone. In other words, it's a note that does not belong to the basic major or minor chord of the key that you're in. And it resolves. It's a dissonant note. And if you accent it or hang on to it, it resolves to a chordal note, one that feels happier. It feels better because it's resolved. But it has to resolve. It has to move. It has to go somewhere. So the opening four notes, da, 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 that one, da, dum, it has to go up or down, but it has to go somewhere. You couldn't stop there. That's called a passing note. Now, there are a lot of names for all kinds of passing notes in music theory. You could call them suspensions. You could call them neighbor tones. You could call them, there's a whole batch of things. But they all have the same thing in common, that they are dissonant notes or notes outside the basic chordal structure of the key, and so they must go somewhere. They drive the music somewhere. So think da, 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 da. Then think about the hen. Ya, ba, ba, da. It's another passing note. It's accented just like that one was. Yum, bum, ba-dum. It's really cool. See? So you've got passing tones in 4-note sniglets, a 4-note phrase, the third note of which is a passing tone. And then the first part goes dum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum. Well, you've got 3-note thingies. And if you take the hen and you turn it around, instead of you get the 4-note thing with the passing tone, then 3-note thingies. Start with 3-note thingies, and then do the thing with the passing tone. Byamp, byamp, byamp. It's 3 of those. Yum, bum, ba-dum. Passing tone, 4-note thingy. So all you have to do to get the hen, essentially, is to do the whole opening motive backwards. You just do a 3-note thingy, and you do the thing with the passing tone. Instead of going up, it goes down. It's the opposite of what we heard at the beginning of the symphony. And that is so cool. I just love it when Haydn does things like that. I really do. Let me play you what it really sounds like instead of me singing and whining about it, because, it's just amazing. Here they are. Here's the whole opening subject, which is longer than the bit I sang, but you don't want me to sing too much. And then you'll hear the hen. And notice in the hen part too, the oboe, the rhythm. Dum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum. Bum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum-bum-ba-dum in the first subject, and then yeah, and then the oboe goes ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum, like that. Same rhythm. And it's funny the second time around. It becomes just this silly sounding, waddling poultry thing. It really does. So here it is, the first subject with a pause, then the second subject. So you see, now the tunes are different. Their emotional qualities could not be more different. I mean, my goodness, but they're constructed from the same elements, the same concepts, the same shapes. That's what makes Haydn such a genius, because he sees music that way. He sees musical ideas as objects and things that he can manipulate in any possible way. So you've got this unbelievable emotional polarity in this music between this really strenuous, tempestuous, stern minor key opening and this unbelievably silly, barnyard, bird-like second subject. And now I want to play you the whole exposition so you can hear how Haydn gets from one to the other, which is part of the whole point of the symphony, because a lot of the tension is created by this movement from desperate minor to goofy major. Just this huge emotional range. A lot of people don't get that, and they don't like it. They think they believe in the sort of single affect Baroque idea where an entire movement should only have one emotion and stick with it the whole time. And Haydn has been taken to task because he likes range within a movement. He wants to see huge contrasts, and he doesn't sit in any one area for that long a time. Some people prefer like just nothing but dark tragedy forever. But Haydn wasn't like that. Neither am I. I like variety. I think variety is fabulous. So here's the exposition, and you get the sense of all of the material that Haydn's using. huh? I mean, it's really amazing. Now, you also may have noticed in the motion music, there's this idea that goes dum ba dum ba bum ba dum ba ba da 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 dum ba dum ba bum ba da 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 da, and it's often paired with the opening idea da 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 dum in the bass quite often. That is going to be very, very important in the development section, the combination of these ideas. Now, the development section, the middle section of this movement is really dark. I mean, it's tragic. It's really tragic music. It's seriously dark. It really is tragic as anything Haydn or Mozart or any of those people ever wrote. It really is. And it leads into the recapitulation. So because the recapitulation is in G minor too, and how you heard how strenuous that is, how dark it is. I mean, it's a big, long 2-minute passage of genuine angst and despair. Really, really powerful. And it gets to the point where the motion music took off. We heard it before. Haydn says, it's enough. We need joy. And so the music just takes off like a shot in the major key and stays there. And that's really the end of the minor key aspect of the symphony. That's as far as it goes. It's very similar to what happens in Mozart's G minor string quintet, for example, which is the same key as this, by the way, as this symphony, G minor, where the introduction to the finale is so dark and so tragic that there's nothing to follow it except the exact opposite. It's a common trope in the classical period to present something that's, one thing, one emotional extreme, and then jump to the other, often without warning. And Haydn does that extraordinarily well. So I want to play you the entire development section, which shows the hen becoming progressively miserable. Maybe it's, headed for the slaughter or something like that. And after that turns to the major, the whole thing, to the minor, pardon me, the whole thing just sets in with extraordinary passion and intensity and real unrelenting malevolence or something like that. Here is that movement up to the moment where the music switches suddenly to the happy major key for the ending. there were a couple of elements that I think we've mentioned, well, one of which we've mentioned, that are going to become hallmarks of the symphony as a whole. One was passing tones. All of the main ideas in this symphony are full of them. Now, classical music in the classical period is full of passing tones. Music is full of passing tones. Anytime you use a note that's not, part of the chord of the key you're in, you're using a passing tone, basically. So there are probably no melodies that consist only, that don't include passing tones, unless they're simple arpeggio formulas. Like the opening of Dvorak's Fifth Symphony, da 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 da, fanfares and things like that. But otherwise, you're going to be using a lot of them. So that's not special. What's special is emphasizing them so that you notice them and they become one of the constructive principles of the melodies in the symphony. That's the way to do it, by taking these simple elements and somehow highlighting them in a way that makes them special. So you're going to hear a lot of passing tones and also repeated notes. Dum ba dum bum ba dum bum ba dum dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum, that sort of thing. And then with the hand, da 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 da, the oboe. These repeated notes, whether in that rhythm, boop ba doop ba doop ba doop, sort of marchy type rhythm, but it's called a dotted rhythm because of the way it's written, or just simply repeated. And so when we get to the second movement, the opening theme, not surprisingly, consists of repeated notes and melodies with lots of passing tones. The accented notes, just keep in mind, often resolve upward or downward to more consonant notes that it's this tension and release constantly. The opening of the slow movement, ya ba 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 ba, repeated notes, ya da da da, passing notes. You see, here it is. Repeated notes, passing tones is very beautiful. The exposition, this is also in sonata form. Actually, all the movements are except for the minuet. It's fascinating to see how Haydn alternates really sort of sensuous melody, beautiful melodies, with passages that seem to consist of nothing. I mean, there's one passage you'll hear that Haydn actually marks more and more quiet, and it's nothing but repeated notes. It's jump, bum, 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 bum. It just keeps going, and then it explodes. High contrast, always contrast. That's the hallmark of this symphony. So here you go. The exposition is the only part you need to hear. Then you can listen to the rest of it yourself, of the slow movement, which is marked, by the way, andante. It's not all that slow. It moves at a walking tempo, a reasonable pace. Here it is. So there you go. Passing notes, repeated notes, passing tones, repeated notes. Seems really simple, doesn't it? But none of it sounds anything like the way Haydn used them in the first movement. Really doesn't. It's totally fresh. Every time Haydn does these things, he's showing us something else that these very simple musical ideas, these basic musical ideas, can become. And in the minuet, well, it's yet another version of a similar concept. Actually, the main theme of the minuet, which is ya da 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 da, something like that, is very similar to the four-note thing in the hen. Ya da da da. If you hear that bit of it, and then the minuet, ya da 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 ba da 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 da. They're related. There are families of ideas here that you can tell who their parents are. They don't necessarily look identical to either of them, but they are related without a doubt. The DNA is the same or similar or a mixture of the two. So you've got passing tones and you've got repeated notes, because underneath the ya da 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 da, you hear chung 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 like that. You get the repeated note business. So I'm going to just play you the whole minuet. We don't have to do the trio. It's a lovely little dance-like thing. But, the whole minuet from beginning to end without the repeats, just so you get a sense. It's beautiful. It's all kind of lovely harmonic shading. The way Haydn makes that initial opening idea, ya da 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 da, sound so different depending on how it's scored and what the underlying harmonies are. It's just marvelous. So here's the minuet. There we go. And the finale. Well, what do you think we're going to get in the finale? Well, the finale is in 12/8, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those compound meter hunting tempo things. Remember the Hunt Symphony? Well, this is a similar hunting type theme. Remember? Da-da-da-dum. Get it? Repeated note things? And the repeated note things, whenever Haydn is in hunting mode, and if he's using repeated notes as like a main idea in a symphony, he's in good shape, because the rhythm is always going to be it's all going to be just firing on all cylinders with repeated notes, and that's what happens here. But the second limb of the theme, first thing with repeated notes, oh, passing tones. Yes, passing tones. So this theme embodies the two main ideas, musical ideas, not expressive ideas, of course, because the expression runs the gamut of emotion, but I'm talking about building materials, Legos, if you want to call them that. You've got little green Legos with passing tones and little blue Legos with repeated notes, or vice versa. But that's the idea. So I'm going to play you the entire exposition, and then we'll make one last point, and you will have the hen entirely internalized. And then you can, order some Kentucky Fried Chicken or Popeyes or one of those terrific things. Have some fried chicken and waffles. Yum. Here is the exposition of the finale. Incredibly catchy, isn't it? And the one thing I want to point out before we leave with this wonderfully fun, enjoyable, really fresh, and it's a simple symphony in a way. This is not Haydn trying to be, intellectually erudite. Sometimes he does, actually. This is a fun symphony. This is one where everything's on the surface and you just wallow in it and have a great time. The very ending, Haydn has found his ending. Now, not everything, of course, is going to end the way this one does, but a lot of things do from here on in. Dun, 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 dun. 3 notes. Yum, yum, yum. That is the Haydn ending. We've heard it before. He used it, I believe he used it in the Il Distrato, number 60. There were a couple places before I mentioned it. He was getting there, but now he has realized that he has something that says, I am Haydn, this is me, and an ending that's going to be unique. And one of the things that happens in all of these symphonies is Haydn's style becomes increasingly, on the one hand, it becomes broader and more all-encompassing, but on the other hand, it also becomes more refined in the sense that he characterizes everything. There's less and less of the perfunctory, dum, bum, bum, usual ending, right? We did a talk on dominant seventh cadences, that sort of thing. Well, now, he's found a way to take these simple formulas and make them his own and give them his personal signature and to add codas or endings that are just full of additional development, personality, and all this sort of stuff. Nothing is taken for granted. Nothing is formulaic. Even those usual parts where every composer of the day would resort to a simple formula just to say, okay, that's the end, it's over. Everything else that was interesting happened before this. No, Haydn is determined to do everything in a personal and characterful way. And this 3-note ending, which we will hear a couple times in these symphonies, is definitely one of those. So here is the end. Yeah, Haydn has arrived as the guy who invented the symphony. Yes, he has, and this is one of those pieces that proves it in the happiest possible way. So number 84 was going to be next in E flat major. That is quite a hoot. I mean, that is one of the most energetic symphonies you've ever heard in your life. I mean, it's the energizer bunny of symphonies. It's always up to something. I will find out just what in the next video. But in the meantime, enjoy the hen. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.